Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple months since you've seen me on YouTube here. I've been very busy with work and consulting and fishing. I got back into fishing the past 2 years, and I've been spending a lot of time fishing on my canoe. And me and Chris met up, did a canoe trip, fished some lakes, some reservoirs, some rivers, and everything. But we're back in deer mode, and we're at the farm today, putting out summer cams, refreshing some mineral for inventory, checking the water holes. We're standing right next to one now. But this video is about updating you on my cutting that I did here on this ridge top. This ridge top, we came in 2 years ago and did a minimal cut, and we did some flush cutting, and then we also did some hinge cutting to create more of a bedding. This is the furthest spot away from the front of the farm where all the food plots and stuff are. It's high up on a ridge, and the deer were bedding up here. We cut more, made it better, bedding area. We have a tree stand right there. We have a water hole right there. Back all through here is the bedding and cutting. We can access through this side over here up to the back side of this, and then get right into the tree stand. Now, all over here, we did lots of cutting. I'm going to take you through and show you exactly what's going on. Over the winter, there's another bench over there. We did a lot of cutting over there as well, mainly removing beech trees. We hinge cut some maples, some elm, and a few birch, I believe. But let's get up in there and I'll show you what we got going on. Now right here, I just put out 2 cams. They're still turned off. I'll turn them on when I leave, but video camera and then a cell cam. This year I'm really focusing back on using stealth cams. I was kind of on the reveal kick for a while, but a lot of them have went bad. So stealth, I had a mix of them last year, but the stealth I feel like has made a turnaround, so I'm back on using them as well. So we'll see how the cell cams go this year as far as using the stealth. Now this here is the lower side of the ridge top. It's a trail that goes down. It's a travel corridor that we made. On this lower side, it leads right out to this water hole and to the tree stand. You can see along here we did some hinge cutting just to kind of create that trail effect. And we're May 25th today, and as I'm looking through here, I mean, it's amazing in here. There's so much sunlight. You guys can see gaps of sunlight, especially up in here, and how thick we have it down, all the down trees, hinge cuts. And over here you can see this huge brain fart, beech tree is what I was trying to get at. But we have a huge beech tree here that we cut, and it just keeps going and going and going. Like this tree here, kind of just hinge that way, and it just goes on and on. Now I got to come back through here. I want to spray this trail. We're going to do that in a couple weeks here with a backpack sprayer, just to spray all the vegetation on this trail, increase its activity. Now, a lot of guys, make cuttings. You see all down in there, all the beech trees that I cut on this hillside. A lot of guys make cuttings very difficult, but it doesn't need to be difficult. Your goal, all this sunlight, your goal is to just get sunlight to these areas for regrowth. And sun's shining back in there, but you have to get sunlight to the ground. And when you do that, you create structure on the ground. So you're cutting the tree for sunlight, but when you cut the tree, you're laying those trees on the ground when you leave them, and you're creating cover. Cover for birds and rabbits and deer. We're doing it for deer, so you create all this cover. Now the key to this is, like I said, getting that sunlight and allowing deer to be back in here alone. They can separate through the different tree tops that you're leaving there. They can separate themselves, and you want to leave this undisturbed. You don't really want to come back in here to hunt or just to kind of walk through. You want to leave these bedding areas alone majority of the time. Now I'm out of breath climbing up here, but amazing just by sunlight. Tons of different species of growth. And a couple things with this. Yes, you don't want to make it too thick, right? Because if it's too thick, the deer can't really maneuver through it. So a lot of times when you cut these trees, flush come down or even hinge cut, you have to make trails through here so they can maneuver. You can kind of direct them too. So this whole thing, you know, the flow through here is from over here, because it's a huge ridge top that runs across this way toward my tree stand and the water hole, and then that leads them down the hill, across the creek, up another ridge, through some travel routes, and just naturally how they flow through the property up to the food plots. So we're keeping them isolated back here in the back. Another thing to keep in mind with this is that, yes, when you cut and you know, after a year or maybe even 2, you get that regrowth and it starts to look too thick. You're like, oh my God, it's too thick, that, you know, it's bad. Well, we necessarily don't care that it's too thick in the summer, right? I mean, you care a little bit, but the majority, you have to think about this, a lot of this stuff is going to die in the fall for hunting season. So as the season progresses, you start getting into September, October, November, all these leaves and stuff are going to fall off. So it's naturally going to become thinner. So I feel like a lot of guys will, you know, do the initial cutting and then realize, and then come back in after it grows up a year, cut all this stuff again because they think it's too thick, and then come hunting season, they don't really use it, or it's too thin. So you have to have that balance. You just have to chip at it, you know, chip at it each year and figure out the balance on what that area needs to look like. And anytime you cut, you're opening up a can of worms, because it's always going to have to be something that you have to maintain. You know, cuttings are probably one of the most overlooked things, especially when I go to like consulting and stuff. It's like, it's the last thing that people think of. And because I get it, most properties, you know, are leasing, so you don't have permission to cut and things. But even for the properties that people own, it's overlooked, because nobody wants to cut the trees because they look cool, you know, to have trees and stuff. Well, it doesn't do any good for the tree to be at the top, you know. If you can see straight through your property, you need to create that cover through your property to hold deer. It's the number one thing that you should be focused on your property, is improving the timber, improving the structure. Then, you know, you can focus on like food plots and things, but the cuttings are very, very important. We're going to get on to the next project on the farm. When you cut, be safe and always have fun. Comment down below if you guys have any questions.